Have you ever found yourself, like right in the middle of that same old argument, saying the exact same things you swore you wouldn't?
Oh, absolutely. Or that thing where you just react totally impulsively.
Yes. And afterwards, you're just thinking, what? What was that? Why did I do that? It's such a strange feeling, isn't it?
It really is baffling. Like this urge just washes over you, comes out of nowhere.
Right. Almost like, your conscious brain isn't even driving anymore, even when you know it's not going to lead anywhere good.
It's fascinating, that feeling of being hijacked, like some invisible force just takes the wheel.
That's a perfect way to put it. An invisible force. And well, that's exactly what we're digging into today in this deep dive. We're talking about this idea that these automatic reactions, these things that feel so random, actually aren't random at all.
They come from somewhere specific.
Exactly. They stem from something we're calling your mental blueprint. Now, don't picture like a rigid architectural plan. It's more dynamic than that.
Yeah, think of it maybe as James Clear talks about the identity behind the habits, right?
Right. Or how Daniel Goleman describes those rough, wordless blueprints for emotional life that get stored literally in our brain pathways.
And Carl Jung, the psychologist, he put it so incredibly well. He said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate.
Wow. Yeah, that just nails it, doesn't it? This hidden blueprint.
It's not just sitting there passively. It's this active internal architecture. It's constantly, guiding our thoughts, shaping feelings, driving behaviors, especially when you're trying to grow or navigate recovery. It's huge.
So that's our mission today. We want to unpack how this blueprint forms, look at its roots,
And explore how it really impacts our relationships, those crucial connections.
and most importantly, give you, our listener, a really practical first step, something you can actually do to start mapping out your own unique mental architecture.
It's about self-understanding, fundamentally.
Okay, let's dive in. Where do we start with this blueprint? The foundations.
Well, the foundations are really our core beliefs and our sense of identity.
Right. These deep down assumptions about ourselves and the world. James Clear talks about this in Atomic Habits, doesn't he? Like a set of beliefs and assumptions that shape the system.
Exactly. It's not just about isolated thoughts. It's the whole operating system in a way. And this is where it gets really interesting for changing behavior. Clear argues that the most effective way to change habits isn't just focusing on the goal like, I want to lose weight. It's about shifting your focus on who you wish to become, changing the identity behind the habits.
Okay, so it's deeper than just changing actions. You have to change who you are or who you think you are.
Pretty much. Because, as he says, behavior that is incongruent with the self will not last. If you see yourself as someone who hates exercise.
Forcing yourself to go to the gym is always going to feel like a battle.
Right, okay. You're constantly fighting your own self-image. It's exhausting, and usually the old identity wins out eventually.
So how does that shift happen then? If our actions reinforce our identity, it sounds a bit like a catch-22.
It can feel like it, but it's also why habits are so powerful in the other direction too. Claire says, quite literally, you become your habits.
Okay, so the actions can shape the identity over time.
Exactly. Every time you do the thing that aligns with the person you want to be, you're casting a vote for that identity. It's this ongoing process.
Which makes understanding where these initial core beliefs come from even more critical, right?
Yeah.
Because they set the stage.
Precisely. And they're not usually things we consciously choose. They get formed overwhelmingly in our early life, childhood, adolescence. Our brain is physically shaped by these experiences. Think about the amygdala, the emotional core. It matures really fast, even in infancy.
So it starts recording emotional data way before we can talk.
Yes. Goleman calls them those rough, wordless blueprints for emotional life, based on how caregivers respond, how safe we feel.
Wordless blueprints, that explains so much. Like why we can feel these intense emotions as adults, this like chaos inside.
But have no story for it, no clear memory attached. It's just this raw feeling.
Yeah, like an emotional echo from a time before words. Overwhelming. But you can't pin down why.
And these blueprints get wired in, literally. Goleman explains how habits of emotional management that are repeated over and over again will themselves help mold this circuitry.
So consistent experiences actually shape the brain's wiring for handling emotions.
Absolutely. Responsive parents, learning to manage distress, practicing empathy that builds strong regulatory circuits.
And the opposite. Neglect, abuse, inconsistent care
Yeah.
that leaves its own mark.
A very real physical imprint on how the brain handles stress, connection, everything. It shapes the architecture.
And it goes even deeper than just our individual brains, doesn't it? You
Yeah.
mentioned Jung earlier, that connection to something bigger.
Right. Jung's idea of the collective unconscious, this shared layer beneath our personal experiences filled with archetypes.
Archetypes like universal patterns, the hero, the mother, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And these universal patterns can get activated and shaped by our personal lives. Jung talked about the mother complex, for example.
Okay, what's that?
It's how early dynamics with the mother figure can create these powerful unconscious patterns. Like, he described how it might lead to an identification with the mother. For a woman, maybe a sort of paralysis of her own initiative. She might cling or even paradoxically try to dominate others.
But unconsciously, like under the mask of complete loyalty.
Precisely. It's not about blame. It's recognizing these deep, often archetypal patterns get woven into our personal blueprint through early relationships. We're playing out these ancient roles sometimes.
Wow. Okay. And then there's the mindset piece, too, from Carol Dweck.
Right.
How does that fit into the blueprint?
That's another crucial layer. Dweck found that early experiences heavily influence whether we develop a fixed mindset or a growth mindset.
Fixed mindset. That's the one where you believe talent is fixed. You either have it or you don't.
Yeah, and it often comes from feeling judged early on, so you feel you must be flawless right away. Mistakes feel like proof of deficiency.
So you avoid challenges to avoid looking bad.
Exactly. It becomes about proving your smarts, not developing them.
Whereas the growth mindset,
That's the opposite. It's fostered by environments that value effort and learning from mistakes. It creates a passion for stretching yourself, even when it's hard.
so challenges become opportunities, not threats.
Right. People with a growth mindset actually thrive during some of the most challenging times. It fundamentally changes how you approach, well, everything. Learning, relationships, setbacks.
So this blueprint really dictates whether we see ourselves as finished products or works in progress.
In a nutshell, yes. And that difference is massive.
Hey, let's make this really concrete. Can you give some examples of these core beliefs in action, how they play out?
Sure. Take a really common one. I'm unlovable.
Oosh. Yeah.
That feeling doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. It often traces back to early experiences, maybe parents who are unresponsive, critical, rejecting. Authors like Levine and Heller in Attached, or Van der Kolk in The Body Keeps the Score, talk about how this leads to feeling deeply unattractive and inadequate.
And that belief then filters everything, right?
Yeah.
Every interaction, every relationship.
Absolutely. You might unconsciously push people away or constantly seek validation or sabotage good things because deep down you don't believe you deserve them.
Okay, what about another one? You mentioned perfection earlier.
Right, the I must be perfect belief. That's classic fixed mindset territory, as Dweck outlines.
How does that show up, besides just being hard on yourself?
Well, people driven by this might avoid things they could actually learn from, like not taking a course because they're afraid of not excelling immediately, looking deficient. Dweck gives examples like Lee Iacocca at Chrysler. Even after huge success, his focus shifted to projects that proved his genius rather than sustained company growth. It was about maintaining the perfect image.
And the Enron guys. That was fixed mindset, too.
Big time. Ignoring warnings, surrounding themselves with yes men, unable to admit fault, all driven by needing to appear infallible, until it all collapsed.
So when these deep beliefs, unlovable, must be perfect, whatever they are, get triggered.
That's when you see those lightning-fast automatic reactions we started with.
The emotional brain just takes over, bypasses rational thought completely.
Exactly. And it feels like fate, because the reaction comes from this deep unconscious script you didn't even know was running.
Back to Jung. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. It's literally playing out.
It really is. The blueprint dictates the response before you have a chance to think.
Okay, so the blueprint is formed early, rooted in core beliefs. How does it specifically play out in our relationships? Especially thinking about recovery and growth.
Well, relationships are absolutely central because at our core, we are wired for connection. Attachment theory makes this really clear.
Right. Levine and Heller in Attached say the need to be in a close relationship is embedded in our genes. It's not just nice to have, it's biological.
It is. John Bowlby, who pioneered the theory, realized that from an evolutionary standpoint, forming close bonds was crucial for survival.
Think about it, safety in numbers.
So our brains literally evolved an attachment system, a mechanism just for connection. Yes, a biological system designed to create and regulate bonds with key people, parents, kids, partners. and it's powerful. Van der Kolk points out that the brain registers losing an attachment figure almost like physical pain.
Wow. So breaking up or feeling abandoned,
Mhm.
it hurts physically.
The brain pathways are remarkably similar. He says, severing an attachment bond is even more excruciating than mistreatment sometimes because it hits that primal survival nerve. We're wired not to be alone.
That explains why relationship issues feel so huge, so fundamental.
They are, and our early experiences with caregivers shape how this system operates in us. They create our attachment working models.
Working models, like our internal rule book for relationships, what we expect.
Exactly. Our attitudes, beliefs about trust, intimacy, how others will likely respond to our needs. It's the lens through which we see connection.
And there are different styles, right? Based on those early experiences.
Broadly speaking, yes. We
Mhm.
usually talk about three main styles, so it's more of a spectrum. First, there's anxious attachment.
Anxious, what does that look like?
Someone with an anxious style typically has a really strong need for closeness, often coupled with a deep fear of abandonment. They need a lot of reassurance. This can look like clinginess, being preoccupied with the relationship status, being very sensitive to perceived slights.
And that protest behavior thing.
Yeah, actions designed to pull the partner back, maybe excessive calls or texts, making threats to leave but not meaning it. It's all driven by that anxiety about disconnection.
Okay, then what's the opposite end?
That would be avoidant attachment. These individuals have learned, usually unconsciously, that closeness feels unsafe or unreliable. So they develop a need to maintain some distance, either emotional or physical.
They seem really independent, maybe even aloof.
Often, yes. They might suppress their own needs for connection. They might look unaffected by separation, but physiologically, their stress levels, like heart rate, are often chronically high.
Huh. So they're stressed inside, even if they look calm.
It seems so.
Yeah.
And they use what are called deactivating strategies to keep intimacy at bay.
Like what?
Things like focusing on small flaws in their partner, romanticizing a past relationship, a phantom ex, shutting down emotionally when things get serious, maybe even physically pulling away from closeness, like cuddling.
It sounds like they want connection, but are scared of it.
That's a good way to put it. The blueprint says intimacy is dangerous, even if consciously they might desire it.
Okay, so anxious and avoidant. What's the third style?
That's secure attachment. This is generally seen as the most adaptive style. Secure individuals manage a balance. They want to be close, like the anxious type. But at the same time, they are not overly sensitive to rejection. They trust that connection is generally safe and available.
So they're more relaxed about relationships.
More or less, they tend to be great communicators, able to express needs and hear their partner's perspective. There's this sense that my partner's well-being is tied to mine and vice versa. This allows them to be more authentic in the relationship, which boosts happiness for everyone. They tend to have stable, lasting relationships.
And they don't end up back in the dating pool as often.
Research suggests they stay in committed relationships longer, so statistically, yes.
It makes sense how mixing these styles could cause problems. You hear about the anxious-avoidant trap.
Oh, it's incredibly common and often very painful. You have one partner needing reassurance and closeness, anxious, and the other needing space and distance, avoidant.
Incongruent intimacy needs, as the book says.
Exactly. And it leads to much lower satisfaction. The arguments often feel irresolvable because they're not really about the surface issue, the dishes, the plans.
What are they about then?
They're often a subconscious way for the avoidant partner to create distance. They'll always find areas of contention, Levine and Heller say, because the underlying need is for space, regardless of the topic.
And the anxious partner feels like it's their fault, like they're asking too much or they're the problem.
Very often, yes. They internalize it, feel inadequate, not realizing it's a dynamic driven by these clashing blueprints about intimacy itself. The argument becomes the tool to get distance.
So how does this play out specifically in recovery? If you're trying to build healthier relationships, maybe overcome past trauma.
The link is direct and profound. Van der Kolk makes it clear. A history of family violence, abuse, neglect. It fundamentally impacts the brain's ability to establish stable, trusting relationships as an adult.
It changes the wiring for connection itself.
It really does.
Yeah.
Think about agency, that sense of control. Secure kids learn their actions matter. Crying brings comfort. Reaching out brings connection. They develop an internal locus of control.
They learn they can influence their world.
Yes. But kids in abusive or neglectful homes often learn the opposite. Their cries might be ignored or punished. Their efforts to connect fail.
So they learn their actions don't matter.
They learn helplessness, essentially. Van der Kolk says they're conditioned to give up when they face challenges later in life because their blueprint says nothing I do makes a difference.
That's heartbreaking. And these trauma maps, as he calls them, are in the emotional brain.
Deeply encoded there. Which means changing these patterns isn't just about thinking differently. It requires reorganizing that part of the central nervous system. It's body work, nervous system work.
And even small things can reinforce these patterns, right? Like getting stuck in dynamics.
Absolutely. Cialdini's work on influence is relevant here. He talks about our powerful drive for consistency.
How does that work?
Once we make even a small commitment or concession, we feel this internal pressure to remain consistent with it. He uses the example of Chinese POWs during the Korean War.
Right. They got prisoners to make very small anti-American statements initially.
Exactly. Tiny concessions. But once they did, it became easier to get them to agree to slightly more and more. That initial small step created an internal pressure to align future actions and beliefs with it.
To avoid the discomfort of inconsistency. The real labor of thinking, as he puts it.
Precisely. Our brain defaults to automatic consistency. So in relationships, small agreements, established roles, little concessions, they can lock us into patterns driven by the blueprint. Even if those patterns aren't serving us, we just keep doing what we've agreed to, implicitly or explicitly.
Okay, wow. So this mental blueprint is powerful, deep, often unconscious. It shapes our reactions, our relationships. It's wired into us. How on earth do we start to work with it, to change it?
It comes back to that Jung quote again, doesn't it? Until you make the unconscious conscious. That is the first step. You have to see it before you can change it.
Making the unconscious conscious. How?
It starts with self-observation, really paying attention. Bessel van der Kolk says, sensing, naming, and identifying what is going on inside is the first step to recovery.
Just noticing, without judgment.
Yes, becoming aware of the automatic thoughts, the feelings, the body sensations that accompany those reactions we talked about. Gaining that observer perspective.
Okay, so observation. And you mentioned a practical exercise, like journaling.
Yes, inspired by the relationship inventory idea in Attached. The amazing thing is, when you recall a memory, you're not just passively viewing it. Neurologically, you're actually making it temporarily unstable.
Wait, really? Recalling changes the memory.
It makes it malleable. So by re-examining past experiences, especially through a new lens like attachment theory, you can literally change some unhelpful beliefs that rely on those memories and start reshaping your working model. You're actively editing the blueprint as you reflect.
That's huge. So it's not just remembering, it's potentially rewriting.
Exactly. It's an active reframing process. So here are some prompts you could use in a journal to start this process.
Okay, prompt number 1.
First, automatic reactions in action. Pick a specific recent time you reacted automatically, maybe out of character. What happened? What emotions came up? Confusing ones are fine. And crucially, what did you feel in your body? Tightness, heat, numbness. Just describe it. No judgment.
Just observe. Become aware. Like Ullman says, that first step to emotional control.
Exactly. Second prompt. Unpacking relationship patterns. Think about a pattern that keeps showing up in your relationships. Maybe you always get critical, or maybe you always need reassurance. What core beliefs about yourself or others might be driving that? How do you react when your need for closeness or your need for space gets challenged? See your working model in action.
Oh, okay. Makes sense.
Third, self-perception and the drive for perfection. Reflect on when you feel that intense pressure to be perfect or the fear of making mistakes. What beliefs are underneath that? When do you feel smartest or most capable? Is it when you avoid errors? Finish fast. Do something others can't. This helps uncover any fixed mindset tendencies.
Got it. And the last one connects to the body.
Yes. Fourth, connecting body and emotion. Pick an emotion you feel often: anxiety, anger, sadness, whatever. Where does it live in your body? Is anxiety a knot in your stomach? Is anger heat in your face? Practice noticing the link between the feeling and the physical sensation, just with curiosity. And then maybe gently experiment. Van der Kolk suggests this, like, notice that. What happens next? Can you change the sensation with a few slow breaths? Focus on the exhale. It's about building that internal awareness and starting self-regulation.
This isn't about getting it perfect, though, is it? The journaling itself.
Absolutely not. It's about repetition, not perfection. James Clear's mantra: you don't need a perfect map of your blueprint on day one.
Just got to get the reps in.
Yeah.
Practice the awareness.
Exactly. Treat it like a gateway habit, as Clear calls it. Small, easy to start. That consistency is what builds the new neural pathways, the deeper understanding over time.
The consistent effort, making the unconscious conscious, that's how you start steering, instead of just being directed by fate.
Precisely. You begin to reclaim your agency.
Okay, so let's pull this together. We've explored this idea of the mental blueprint, this deep, often unseen internal architecture.
Built from core beliefs, attachment patterns, all rooted in our past experiences.
And it influences everything. Our gut reactions, our relationship dynamics, especially when we're trying to grow or recover. It's running the show, often without us realizing it.
Which is why self-awareness is so critical. It's not just a buzzword. It's the fundamental competence, the true first step, as Goleman and van der Kolk stress,
Moving from just reacting
to understanding and then intentionally starting to reshape that internal architecture. Sensing, naming, identifying what's happening inside you, that's where the power starts.
It's that ongoing process Claire talks about, editing your beliefs, upgrading and expanding your identity. Moving towards that growth mindset Dweck describes, where challenges become fuel.
It's not about erasing the past, but integrating it, understanding its pull, and consciously doing forward.
But, and this feels important, even with this awareness, it's not always straightforward, is it? Sometimes we still feel stuck. We seem to work against ourselves.
That's a really key point. Self-awareness is incredibly powerful. It unlocks so much. But confronting and truly reshaping these deep blueprints, well, it often involves hitting these frustrating loops.
Which leads us to a really interesting question for next time. If our past shapes us so much, and we start to become aware of it, how do we explain those times we seem to actively sabotage our own goals, even when we consciously want something different?
Exactly. Why do we undermine our own progress? Next time, we're going to dive deep into how this mental blueprint can actually manifest as self-sabotage, exploring the science behind why we get stuck in those cycles, and crucially, what it takes to truly break free.